Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Tonight we have a unboxing, and I know exactly what this is because a patron of the community, a fellow fraghead and lover of vintage perfumes, Brandon from A Lifestyle Not For Sale, that's his handle. And I promised him, due to this generosity, I would have a live stream where him and I he came on and we just kind of kicked the shit for a while, talked vintage fragrances for an hour or two, but he sent me a package. A gift, if you will. And inside, I know exactly what's inside, but I want to reveal it to you because it is a rare and vintage and long gone version of a Chanel fragrance. Actually, the very first Chanel fragrance for men. And I own a bottle of the current formulation. This is Chanel's Pour Monsieur. This is currently what it's called, and I believe this is even the current version, if you will. And I was, I always hear Chanel does good reformulations and stuff like that, but this lasts like 30 minutes on my skin, 45 minutes tops. It's a joke, almost. I like the smell in the opening, but I need more than 45 minutes, I won't lie. I have high expectations, and so this is the vintage version of it, and here it is. Let me show you guys, because this is some beautiful stuff. If you watch Eugene's channel, you've probably actually seen this because I believe Brandon showed it off. I don't know where he gets his stuff from, but he's got an amazing contact because his stuff is always pristine and new and full, and looks like it came straight out of a vintage magazine or something. But this is Chanel's A Gentleman's Cologne. So it was originally called A Gentleman's Cologne or Chanel for Men, depending on what part of the world that you lived in. I have no clue how to date these things. I'm not going to lie. Absolutely no idea. I'll show you some of the markings on the box, but there's really not that much. So that's it. A Gentleman's Cologne, a 4 ounce. And look at the state of this bottle. I mean, it almost looks straight off of the factory floor. Look at that. Just a beauty. Chanel Inc., New York, New York. I have no clue how to date these, honestly. If anyone knows about what year this bottle is from, I would love to know. So Brandon claims that this is perfectly intact. Everything is tip-top shape, that he's received a couple bottles from the past that are sour, and this one is perfect. So it comes with the little insert. This is actually a Chanel No. 5 perfume insert. Talking about other Chanel fragrances. Chanel No. 22. Chanel for Men. A Gentleman's Cologne. The mark of a man. Brisk, bracing, virile, modern blend. Okay, good stuff. So that's awesome. I love these little things. I wish houses still did them. If I ever have my own fragrance line, I am putting a fucking insert in there, and costs be damn. But sir, you can save 27 cents if you don't put the insert in. Yeah, well, fuck you. Put the insert in. Okay, so I'm gonna do a first impression of this because I am dying to know. So instantly from just smelling it, it smells different than the one I know. I'll tell you that right now. And I assumed it did because I just assumed there were reformulations along the way. Especially this came out in 1955, and so I think I'm going to build myself a little decant right here on the channel. So bear with me. Let me get a little atomizer and a little funnel. I'm going to make myself a little 5 ml decant so I can spray away. I was going to actually just dump this on, but the hole is pretty big, and so I don't want to risk just dumping a shit ton of this on my skin. Okay, let's see. So, for those of you who have not seen a decant made, by the way, it's pretty damn simple. You just do this, and there you have it. You just put this bad boy in, out comes the juice, into the funnel, into the decant, use as much as you want, and whenever it's done, refill it. It is literally that simple. Oh man, this, I'll tell you what, If the one I got smelled like this, I would think entirely differently of this fragrance. That is the crazy thing about this hobby, is it's not just getting to know the fragrance, but sometimes you have to get to know different versions of a fragrance, you know? Even the threading on the cap and the bottle seem different than what I'm used to. This is awesome. A gentleman's cologne. Okay, let us spray. Let's see. So for those of you that don't know, this is totally different. This is much more powdery, much more like a Chanel, you know? It has that Chanel class about it. Oh man, this is like, oh, this is fantastic. I mean, instantly, swear to God, right hand to God, it is 180 degrees different from what I'm used to smelling. Let me just spray the Modern just on this hand, just so I can make a comparison. Just real quick, just for the hell of it, real quick, just a first impression comparison. Yeah, so the opening of the Modern is much more citrusy. Rich Mitch called it almost bleach-like, and you know what? It's because he doesn't like lemon, and there's a shit ton of lemon in the opening of the Modern, okay? But the Modern, instantly goes much more citrusy lemon. The Vintage is almost like you're picking up all these little details, like little powders on the wind, you know? And those little details make it smell completely different. I mean, obviously, they're both citrus, chypre, aromatic kind of fragrances, but the way that they smell, I would say, so they're starting to come a little bit closer together now, but I would say that this has much more of the posh Chanel high end. You know, if you've heard me just rave and drool over Chanel's Cuir de Russie, you know, I think this has more of that Chanel class about it, whereas this feels a little bit more common in a sense. You know, there are a lot of other fragrances that have taken on a DNA of the Modern, but I've smelled very little that kind of does what this one does from the outset. Yeah, I mean, I'm getting like, it feels like it, obviously it's old as sin, so I have no clue the year on this, but it does feel like I'm getting more of the sort of details in this fragrance. So even though it's old, he's right, it has held up beautifully, because it almost feels like now, you know, I said powders on the wind, and now it almost feels like it's stuck to a tree, you know? So you're outside, everything is fresh. Just imagine like someone picks up a dandelion and blows it on the wind, and the seeds kind of go everywhere. Imagine that being like Chanel powders. That's how the Vintage wears. Whereas the Modern is, yeah, it's much, what's the word? Sharper. It's definitely much more focused on that citrusy type opening. Whereas here, it feels like you're getting outdoors, flowers, trees, grasses, with the Chanel kind of, you know, sparkle and spice. I'll be interested to see longevity. I mean, there's a neroli note in here, supposedly. There's a neroli note, which adds a freshness to it. There is a vervain note. There's an orangey note. It's not just lemon. There's also some orange. There's green basil. There's ginger, cardamom, coriander with a base of oak moss, vetiver, and cedarwood. And maybe it's kind of the oak moss, the addition of the extra oak moss in here. But I'll really be interested to see how this kind of plays out. I will tell you this, it is becoming a little bit softer. Maybe it's because I'm smelling the new one too. Maybe because it's 50 years old. Fuck, I have no clue. Maybe it's just going deeper into the base already. But I've always wanted a vintage bottle of this, because I was always so interested in the differences. Because anytime I get especially a Chanel, especially when you get a Chanel and you're like, you know, it's hit or miss, it really made me think maybe I was missing something. So I'm gonna continue. I mean, you can see obviously there's differences in the juice color. This is much lighter. This is a little bit darker. Doesn't mean anything now. Could be food coloring for all we know. But instantly the powderiness of the vintage comes forward so much more. And I'm not sure what that is, honestly. The powderiness reminds you of a Chanel, but I'm not really sure what it is that's giving that powderiness. There is a little bit of powderiness coming through, but nowhere near on the level of the vintage. The vintage was like an explosion of powders and sort of woody, spicy coriander. And I think that vetiver is giving it that outdoorsy feel. And of course, the oak moss is maybe what's giving it so much of a 3D textured feeling. But he's right. It's definitely held up. I'll be very, very interested to see how this evolves and plays and lasts on the skin. First impression, longevity, I don't think this is going to be a beast, honestly. Even the vintage, I don't think is going to be a beast. I think it's still going to sit closer to the skin. But the fact that there are differences in the way it smells doesn't surprise me. Doesn't surprise me at all. But I'm guessing it's still going to sit pretty close. My guess is I wear these very similar to how I wear Eau Sauvage. Eau Sauvage sits in a very similar space in my mind. It also came out about a decade after this. But still, I think it was of a time where men didn't really wear perfume that much. I've got a short ingredient list of Eau Sauvage from about 20, 25 years ago, okay? So it's not a true old vintage, but it's old enough to where it's not hit with the newest IFRA regulations and stuff like that. When I wear Eau Sauvage, I want to reapply that thing every hour. I mean, literally every hour. And there's only a handful of fragrances in my collection that I do that with. Even Diamant, which I reviewed today, was my scent of the day. I only reapply twice, okay? When I wear Eau Sauvage, I could reapply 6 or 7 times. And that's how, if I'm going to wear this as my scent of the day, which I very rarely do, as you can see from the juice level usage. I haven't used that much. Because it's not my favorite thing to wear, I will admit. But it's a fragrance that I feel like it does need to be discussed and talked about. I mean, the first Chanel for men, and it lasted all the way up until Antaeus as the only Chanel for men. Think about that. An entire generation, basically, before they decided to put something else out. And did they ever hit the ball out of the park? So yes, there's an old advertisement I'm looking at where it actually shows this gentleman's cologne bottle. And it says the 4 ounce, which is what this is, was $5. I don't know what year this is from, if it's from when it came out, but this was $5. If that gives you any indication of how bad the Federal Reserve has fucked us with inflation over the years, but we won't go down that tangent. Let's just say, needless to say, a new bottle of Chanel Pour Monsieur is not $5. It is a hell of a lot more, but that is a conversation for a different channel, not a perfume channel. So anyways, as always, I appreciate you guys watching. Excited to get to know this. Thank you, Brandon. You are the best, and we'll definitely have you on for a live stream soon, my brother. So appreciate everyone watching. Cheers, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.